It doesn't haunt me. There's nothing to haunt. If it was a decision that I needed to make, the decision never comes around. There's no coulda, woulda, coulda,
But
shoulda.
what's coming from inside of you is different than what used to come from inside of you, because before it was a lot of ego. So people would be listening to you now saying the inside of you is the truth and this, but that's the opposite of what people have to unleash, right? What's inside of them, I tell them it's not the truth. It is the fraudulence. It's the ego mind. That's why I wanted to say, and not to justify, but the reason why I say it's hard and then it becomes easy is because of this, Cal. Because you know the saying, under promise, over deliver, over promise and under deliver. Imagine if I said it would be easy, right? Oh, you got this, it's easy. And then people start complaining because it's hard, or they get overwhelmed because they're already overwhelmed with so much going on in their life, the tasks, they're already doing so much. And then I hit them with all the exercises and tasks and the methods and the exercises that I give and stuff. Then they get overwhelmed. Now, answer me this. Remember in the beginning that I was giving you so much and you started to feel overwhelmed. And then I gave you a technique and I said, okay, I understand. I hear you. But do you go to the washroom? Do you use the toilet? Do you shower? Do you walk from here, point A to point Z or point B? Do you go to the kitchen? What are you doing from here to there? And then when I say that, because a lot of clients or a lot of potential clients come and that like, oh, I already feel like it's going to be overwhelming. How much do I have to commit? How much do I have to do? They get wrapped up in their mind. Remember in the beginning, you used to do that.
Yeah, you got to stop that. That's
right.
That's the mindless chatter, the ego trying to survive. Yeah, that did take me a while. So one of the things that took me a while was really trying to understand my ego, okay? Because it's not as if, I don't have an ego. Sure, I got an ego. Anybody that's breathing, that's in the physical form is going to have an ego, right? The ego will try to survive. The ego will try to always be present and present itself because it's afraid. And the ego learns, correct me if I'm wrong here, Malcolm, I think that the ego learns acceptance as well. Because I feel like when I catch myself being fraudulent, there is the piece that's in me that tells my ego, look, man, I still love you. And I appreciate the fact that, you're worried about what this person's going to think of you or whatever, but it's going to be cool. Let's just go with it for a minute, right? It's okay to let go. Just let go for a minute.
I mean, that's what that is. Let's break it down. Is when you're feeding your ego information from the unknowing, when you don't know the information, your ego comes up and you're feeding it the doubt that it wants. It wants to conform. It wants to be comfortable. So you're like, yeah, I don't know what to do. Then it likes that. So what you got to do to change the ego mind is educate the ego, give it some empathy, some compassion, some love, but correct it, give it some wisdom and say, no, I'm not feeding you that. Get out of my head, shut the F up. Like I like to tell people and say, no, we are this, we are doing this. This is how it is. Then it says, oh, okay. So you're feeding, what are you feeding it, right? So that's what you have to do to get to that point, right? Is right now, people are feeding it what it wants. The ego wants you to be comfortable. It wants you to be like afraid. It wants you to be anxiety and have panic attacks. So it reassures you that we're comfortable being in anxiety, but then our spirit's fighting it. So we get into these attacks, panic attacks and depression and anxiety. So you have to correct it, educate it, soothe it. So that's what you're saying. The ego needs to be loved. It needs to hear that what are the steps that I teach? Acknowledge, understand, appreciate, and respect. And does it serve me? No. So I let it go. Remember, right? The ego needs all that. It needs to be heard and understood and respected and loved and acknowledged. We don't do that. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we don't do that. We feed it the wrong information. We run away from it, and then it goes back and it fucks us up even more. Our subconscious mind keeps coming up. Oh my God, what's going on? This is scary, because you did not know what to do. You weren't educated. You weren't guiding it properly.
There's actually been times, Malcolm, where recently there's been times where I literally think there's the inner voice, the inner being, the center of awareness. I feel that there are times where my center of awareness literally tells my ego sometimes, shut up and be, do you see those other souls? And when that happens, I get real quiet. Everything, there is no mind chatter. It's just pure awareness, right? And that pure awareness is just kind of there, and it's kind of hard to, it's just awareness. I'm, if they learn how to do the mirror talk exercises, it's that kind of awareness. You get into that center of awareness, and it's not the ego that's looking out. It's the inner being that's looking out, and it's looking at the other inner beings. And whatever was going on at the time, for me, whatever was going on at the time with that, the fear, because often my ego acts up when I get, when there's fear when it thinks it wants to be afraid, and it just kind of shuts off, and then I'm able to be in the moment and participate in the moment and be mindful in the moment, and there's really not a dialogue going on in my head. It's just listening and feeling and replying.